All right, Lena, hello.
Hi, how are you, Justin?
Good, great, thank you. Good to see you and chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on our Go Beyond Summit.
Yay, it's great to be here.
Well, everybody, this lady here, Lena, is unbelievable. This probably will be one of the most riveting talks that you will ever hear, period, right now. And I have interviewed about 100 docs and experts in the last 3 years. And this talk right here will probably teach you more and be more educational than anything that you've heard from us in the last 3 years. I'm just going out on a limb. She is an expert in 5G. She was at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and used to write environmental restoration projects for them. She works with Empower Movement organization. This is a nonprofit organization. Josh Del Sol made the documentary movie Take Back Your Power. She works with them. He basically whistle blew on the smart meters. Now we're so far beyond. It's like smart meters are old news, but they're still killing us. And you have electricity, dirty electricity, smart meters, and then now we have this 5G going, and it just keeps on going and getting bigger and bigger. Well, Lena is also responsible for writing the notice of liability and documenting legal documents, history, science, all in one. And it's a document that all of us can hand to our assemblymen, our state governors, our city councilmen. Everyone should be sent this document. So we're going to make this document accessible for you to disseminate to everyone you know, and then they're just going to bombard everybody with this. I mean, I'm going to send this to everybody. I'm going to attach it on our emails. Everyone's going to get it. You guys have to have access to it because what she wrote is a masterpiece, a work of art. So, Lena Pu, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you. And let's start with signal strength because you're an expert in this. People are trying to wrap their arms around what is electricity, what are the different types of it, and then how do they affect us?
Okay, there's dirty electricity, there's magnetic, okay, there's electrical fields and there's magnetic fields and there's radio frequency microwaves. And today with 5G involves the radio frequency microwaves. It can generate magnetic and electrical fields on wires, but I can get into that later. Basically, before we were infused with all this wireless, which produces the microwaves, all our electrical appliances produce magnetic as well as electrical fields. And people who are, for instance, electrically sensitive have discovered that these appliances and things that are running, the fields that are coming off of the wires are also making them sick. This is how we discovered electrosensitivity. Was some people just have, they cannot be around electrical appliances. They have to be shielded. The wires have to be shielded. Some of the appliances themselves have to be, well, it's hard to shield appliances, but distance do make a big difference. However, microwave sickness also solicits the same symptoms, the headaches, the insomnia, the tiredness, basically the numbness in your extremities. All of this actually really stems to a lot of different things. For one thing is these fields coagulate your blood. It makes your blood sticky. And so it starves your organs of oxygen. That is one thing. Another thing is, it causes neurological issues. Your nervous synapses are not firing correctly. And so people get heart palpitations or heart arrhythmias, certain heart pain too. So if you get all these, if you realize you have certain symptoms like this, you might actually want to start shutting down your electricity at night to see if you sleep better, because that'll shut off both the magnetic and the electrical fields. Magnetic coming off the appliances, the electrical fields coming off of the wires. So that is a great way out, if you might be electrically sensitive. And the other thing I would recommend is also shutting off all your wireless gadgets, your phone, turn everything off, take the battery out, because if you don't know if you're really shutting things off, take the battery out or leave it in another room.
Right.
You do not leave it next to your bed. And then shut off your Wi-Fi, shut off all kinds of gadgets in your house, tablets, everything. Another great thing to do is also opt out of your smart meter. And if you can't do that, then of course the notice liability, which I will go into in greater depth, you can also file that. And the beauty about the notice liability that I created is that it can function to incorporate any type of wireless. So yeah, so these three things: shutting off your Wi-Fi, your wireless, shutting off your electricity at night, and hopefully as you sleep better, your body will recover, and during the day you might have more energy.
Great.
So.
Okay, so we have electric fields, we have magnetic fields, we have radio frequency fields, we have dirty electricity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones, and they're all equally disturbing for us, correct?
Yes and no. Electrical and magnetic distance makes a difference. So you can turn things off. You can be in control of it, for instance, except for power lines. You really can't control that. If you're unfortunately living near power lines, I would really highly recommend you move if you can. But with radio frequency waves, that is it's a whole different beast. The industry is making it so that it penetrate concrete walls. It's meant to penetrate all things to reach your devices, right? So it's really about connecting devices with each other, speaking with each other. This is all about the Internet of Things, where we're talking about a global networking of artificial intelligence, minus the concern of thinking, health and biological bodies that happen to be in the way. If you're beaming signals between cell tower to a phone, and if you happen to be in the middle, well, what is it doing? It's penetrating through your biological body. You're absorbing all the signals, the microwaves. Of course, it's not hurting your device, but it's hurting you.
Right.
So that's where we're missing the whole picture here, is biological effects and the knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable, the signal strength. So talk about signal strengths. Like, what's the difference between a cell phone, a router strength, and then the new 5G, and then maybe Alexa in your house, per se, or a Nest AC unit?
Good question, Justin. Okay, so cell phones operate 900 megahertz, 1800 megahertz. Your Wi-Fi operates at 2.45 gigahertz and 5 to 5.8 gigahertz. So the frequencies are going up. Megahertz, of course, moving up to the gigahertz. Microwave spectrum is between 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz. 1 hertz is basically 1 cycle per second, and that's one magnetic wave form. And so if you look at, for instance, your Wi-Fi is going 2.45 gigahertz, that's really waves that are oscillating 2.45 billions of times, and that's cycling through your body, and you're absorbing. So this is how microwave ovens work: is that these waveforms is hitting your food, and it's oscillating the molecules because it's penetrating them, and it's all causing them to oscillate millions and billions of times per second, and it's the friction that causes the heat. Now, we're living tissue, and we don't need very much to cause an impact, a biological impact.
Right.
So sorry. So if you study, for instance, Robert Becker, who did experiments on salamanders, it takes a minute, like barely a breath of energy for them to regenerate limbs. So this means that our bodies communicate on a cellular level at an extremely minute amount of energy that is almost undetectable. And here we're sending powerful microwaves through our bodies.
Right.
You know, so and of course you're asking the FCC, who are a bunch of engineers. None of them are medically licensed or medical doctors, and they're telling you that it's safe. Well, in reality, it's anything but safe. So if you look at the background radiation, you look at Robert Becker's work, it's really subtle. It is extremely subtle.
Yeah, definitely. What is 5G?
5G is within the spectrum 30 gigahertz to 300, and that's the fastest frequency range. It's in the extremely high frequency range of the microwave spectrum. And right now, our Wi-Fi, our highest frequency range that we use as consumers, goes up to 6 gigahertz. And the FCC has only allowed, for now, up to 6 gigahertz to be used commercially. Anything past 6 gigahertz, it's not a spectrum that we're using, save the 60 gigahertz that are used in a few things like virtual reality and also gaming devices. But apart from that, really, we haven't gone beyond 6 gigahertz. So you're looking at 30 to 300 gigahertz. That's within the millimeter waves. And millimeter waves is a completely different beast. And this is what 5G is all about. 5G is the millimeter waves and more. So I'm going to give you an example of what 5G really is compared to what all the previous generations are. The FCC basically told with each generation, okay, we're going to give you, for instance, two bandwidths to use, 900 and 1800. And then the next generation, they'll say, okay, we're going to move it up. We're going to allow you to use 2.45 and 5. And then the next generation will be another frequency. But this time, 5G, the FCC did not say, we're only going to give you 2 types of frequencies. We're going to give you the whole smorgasbord. You get to choose. Any frequency that is not being used, that's up to you to choose. So basically what they're saying is they're going to blanket the entire Earth potentially with all the microwave frequencies. Anything goes. And if you listen to Tom Wheeler's speech when he announced the 5G, he said, this is the final frontier. We're opening up all the spectrum for you guys to choose. There will be no limitations. As a matter of fact, he said, we're going to get rid of environmental assessments. We're going to get rid of the National Historic Preservation Acts. And they did. They did this back in March of this year. And so here, that's how they're fast tracking the 5G. They are not only eliminating environmental historical protection laws that are ready, policies that are already in place to protect us and the environment, they're also allowing an increase in power. And I don't think people are aware of this. The industry are not only allowed to ask, well, we want to use whatever frequency we want, and the FCC is going to say, yes, we're going to give it licensed or unlicensed, but they're coming to them and asking them for increase in power. So it's the frequency types that we're being blanketed by that are completely artificial, that do not belong on Earth. Now, there's a reason why our atmosphere blocks all of the microwave frequencies. And the amount of microwave frequencies that are allowed to come to Earth is 0.8, I believe there's about 8 zeros, 0.8 zeros and 1. That's, and then that's the background radiation. But what are we up to? We are in the tens to hundreds to millions of thousands of wattage, microwatts. So we're talking about, there's a span of 18 zeros between what the FCC allows to what the background radiation is. So when people say, oh, well, there is background radiation, well, there is, but there's 18 zeros between what FCC allows to what Earth actually had in the past, which no longer exists anymore because we are already being blanketed by enough radiation. So what I'm saying is right now, we are already blanketed by very dangerous levels of radiation. 5G is not going to eliminate what is already existing. It's just going to add, and it's going to add a whole new beast of frequencies called the millimeter waves. I'll go into the millimeter waves in a bit, but now I'm going to give you an example. People need to visualize this. Right now, there's antenna search site. You can go in and figure out, how many antennas, how many cell towers are in your city. And I've been doing this with a lot of the major cities. Within a 4-mile radius, there are on average 400 cell towers.
Wow.
Okay. This is pretty average within the major cities. I live near Sacramento, and I did Sacramento. I did the middle of this downtown Sacramento area, and I did a 4-mile radius search, 400 cell towers. All right, this is what's existing. And then what 5G is going to do is going to put all these small cell towers basically on every single block, because that's what they want. They're saying, oh, we need this. Well, who needs this? We don't need it. They're trying to create this Internet of Things to create to connect appliances that we don't really want. I don't want my refrigerator being really so smart that it's watching me all day long, or my coffee maker that hears every conversation I have when I'm with a friend, having coffee. These are very serious issues that we need to, as consumers, need to realize. And we have to say no. The last time I bought a washer dryer, I actually specifically told the salesperson, I do not want a washer that has Wi-Fi capabilities. And so I bought something that didn't have Wi-Fi capabilities. And if they didn't have any options, and I say, well, is there a way to disable it? Or can someone take it out? Because I want it known, as a consumer, that there are certain parameters that this is it, enough is enough. I just want a device. I don't need it to speak to every device in my house.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Well, there's a huge privacy challenge, obviously, with the smart meters, and Power Movement could really expose that in your documentary movie on the Take Back Your Power. And I know that's secondary for for us right now. I think primary is our health, and although for a lot of people they really do care about privacy, and they'll go to bat big time for that. Yeah. I think my bone right now is our health for our nation, our future generations, fertility, population replenishment rate, like all these different topics. So we have these crazy signals. We have 5G with 3 different types of millimeter waves in them. Now, real quickly, let's jump in. I know we're limited on time, so let's go over your notice of liability. What is a notice of liability? Who do you give it to? And just share some background on that. And you did a one for close proximity on microwave radiation antennas. So share with us what a notice of liability is, and legally how it wouldn't affect us at all, giving it to our city councilmen, assemblymen, and governors and all. Okay, great. The notice of liability basically can be anything that's causing a tort. And right now with the Empower movement, which is who I represent, and I specialize in the 5G for the Empower movement, there are notice liabilities that we're hoping to produce. One of them that's going to be coming out will be the vaccine one. We're hoping to tackle other issues, but since I'm focusing on the wireless issues, mine will tackle not just 5G, but also anything
wireless that is harming us. So the way I've structured it, you can send it to schools and you can give it to your school board members and say, hey, let's get all this wireless out of schools. You guys are liable for creating a safe and healthy school environment. We do not want 30 wireless laptops with, dozens of antennas per device, with over hundreds of antennas going off at the same time while the children are using it.
Awesome.
It is a microwave oven inside those school classrooms. So that is one example where you can use the notice of liability. You can also use it for your smart meters. You can also use it at your workplace. These people are responsible for creating a safe and healthy environment because we are there for many, many, many hours in the day. Right. And with this 5G, they're encroaching. All this wireless infrastructure is just getting closer and closer. It started with cell towers that are miles away. Now the cell towers are finding themselves on top of school buildings.
So you can do it for landlords as well. So any landlord of a retail center, school, churches.
Yes.
Okay.
Government officials, whoever is allowing this to happen, whoever is leasing their property, whoever, and the designers too, the makers, the manufacturing companies can be filed these. And also, of course, the telecom industry can be filed. Wow. If it's Verizon, if it's AT&T, whoever the CEO is, and you can file it to them. So the first page basically has a list of all the people, the names you can put in there, and the notice of liability. The beauty is it takes out the whole legal process, it takes out the middle manager, and it's between you and another person. It pulls the person out of their organization, out of the safety net of their names, and saying, you as an individual, you are responsible to my health. And so this notice of liability, I'm filing it directly to you, and it has their names directly on it. So the notice of liability, like I said, you can fill in, I made it so that there are blanks. You can fill in, okay, Wi-Fi in schools, smart meters, 5G, small cell antennas, so I made a list. So you can scroll through the list and choose and plunk them in the spots. The notice of liability, I'm rather proud of. It contains legal issues. It's got science in there. It's got policies. It's got politics. It's got spiritual aspects in it too. Not in any specific sense, but it's really of a higher level. It's really what is it that we're fighting? We're fighting to preserve our humanity. That's where the spiritual aspects come in. And so we're fighting to preserve the health of our whole earth, the resources, the animals, the air, the water quality. And this is where the millimeter waves come in. The millimeter waves is not just going to hurt humans, but it's going to hurt all of life. The size of the frequencies affects the size of the object it's penetrating. Millimeter waves are between 1 to 10 millimeters. That's going to impact photosynthesis because leaves are 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters thick. It's going to impact the wings of insects. And in addition, they're also made of chitin, which is also highly absorbing of the microwaves. And it's going to impact the soil microbia, the microbiome, the health of the soil. That's extremely important.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it is important. And also the water quality. The quality of the water structure is going to be impacted by millimeter waves. And as a matter of fact, it's actually impacted by all the microwaves. Because as I said before, microwave ovens actually attacks the structure of the water within the food. 2.45 gigahertz is a perfect attenuation to water. We are mostly water. Okay, so you go, oh, well, we're all fine. We're all still alive. Well, I don't know. 60% of us are all on chronic meds. There's 60% of the U.S. We're dealing with chronic illnesses of all kinds, and autism is now 1 out of every 38 kids.
Wow.
1 out of 38, and it just happened within a short decade or two. This all stems from 1996 Telecommunications Act, when the FCC allowed cell towers to be put without any environmental impact review, without any environmental assessment. This is if it harms the environment, you basically cannot sue based on environmental effects. And this was back in 1996. And so that's also when you start seeing a lot of chronic illnesses popping up in the population. So there is correlation. There is correlation to this environmental toxin. Folks, this is an environmental toxin, and it's only increasing. And unless you stop it with the notice of liability, we're not going to be able to stem the tide. Yeah. And this is a global phenomenon. This is not a singular issue that's just also happening in your neighborhood. So we all need to fight together.
Yeah, every country, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Now, I think you made a big point when we were talking previously, but there's a huge liability challenge for public governance, like public companies leasing like light poles out to private entities, and share with that for a second, because I don't know if the city really understands that. They're like, oh, if you talk about rated frequencies, we're off the hook because the FCC, allows us. But you're saying if you give them a notice of liability, they're opening the doors themselves for legal ramification of leasing a light pole out to a public or to a private entity.
The light pole is a public utility, and them leasing it to a private entity it creates a dangerous condition of liability. So you're melding two things that do not belong together. From a simple light post, you're putting all that liability onto the people, because what happens? You're putting tons of wattage per light pole to create these cell antennas to work, and that's a private entity who's liable for this dangerous condition. What if a light pole falls over during a storm, or a car slams into one of these light poles with the antennas on there, with tons of wattage wired through, to make these antennas function? Then who's liable for that? What about fires too? These things, just like smart meters, okay? When homes suddenly went up in flames, and they stemmed it to the smart meters, the failing circuitry of the smart meters. Same thing can happen with all these light poles. And I guarantee you that all these light poles will have cell antennas on them, because they're not going to say, oh, well, we're going to only limit ourselves to, no. The industry never limits themselves. As a matter of fact, they overextend themselves. So just think of any pole that's out there, whether it's a light or utility pole, if it has an antenna on it, it's a dangerous condition of liability.
Yeah, definitely.
Private melding with the public.
Awesome. Well, we need to let every government agency know that that's illegal, and this notice of liability is just going to be a massive game changer. Everybody, let's get it out to everybody we know and share this. And you guys, I've been muzzled on this. I did an Instagram post on a new poll going up, and I'm going to keep posting this stuff. We're going to keep talking about it, but all the text was deleted from my Instagram post. And I called out the FCC. I called out a lot of different places. So I don't know who deleted it, how it got deleted, but this is some pretty crazy stuff going on right now. And this is for our health of us, our families, future generations. And Lena, your information is so profound. Thank you so much for joining us on our Go Beyond Summit and sharing your wisdom. And thank you for writing that notice of liability and helping us, educate us on our legal rights, that we still do have them, and the things that we can do to help stop this and stop the madness. It's like no one really cares if we have 10 times faster internet connection. You're in Sacramento, I'm in Newport Beach. We're talking just fine. This is great. I don't need to have this any better, at this point. Like, our health is way more important. And if we don't have people, we won't have commerce. You won't make money ultimately. So it's this whole big thing that we're just going, it's like, what's the end game? People don't really understand it. Like, our health is indicative of finance and growth and commerce. And if you're not healthy, you're not going to be buying stuff. So, cars with routers in them, self-driving cars on every street corner, who cares about that? Like, people want to go camping, they want to go off the grid, they want to get away from this stuff. Like, this stuff is, they say it's coming in our generation. I'm never going to allow it. I'm never going to vote for it. I hope you guys don't as well. And, start to spread this message. And we got to get this out of our schools. I'm going to, when the second I receive this and post it, we're going to get it out to my daughter's school, her church, and I'm going to send it to you, everybody on our email list, and every industry professional that I know, and I work with a lot of them, as we've had about 100 of them on our on our Go Beyond Summit, and they have massive audiences as well. So I'm super excited about this and you and what you've created. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a real honor.
Awesome. All right, Lena, we'll chat with you soon, and you guys, you can check out her at Empower Movement, and we'll be giving you all her contact information if you need any follow-up as well. So thank you, Lena. Appreciate it.
Thank you.